as I started open water, I could see the improvement. I became like a different person. If you met me 4 years ago, I was this shy, reserved little girl, and now I'm speaking to people in interviews. The number one problem I faced is when you get into your head, that's when it all goes down. Your number one enemy is yourself. When you do some charity, you should actually mean it. When I stumbled across Akshaya Patra, knowing that it's one charity that supports both kids in England and in India, that I knew it was calling to me. I don't know how it feels to be hungry, but fasting from a day is bad enough. In some places, girls still don't go to school, and at their houses they don't get meals. So the fact that not only giving them food can encourage them to come to school, but it's the fact they can get an education while getting food.
Tell me just a wee bit about why it is that you chose to do this for Akshaya Patra.
So when we first started choosing our charity, I was looking through the charity list, and there were loads of charities supporting really, really great causes. But then I also feel like when you do some charity, you should actually mean it. You shouldn't just do it because you're doing it, which obviously is a good thing. But then I decided to do a charity that also meant something to me. My first option was doing two charities, so a separate charity for India and then a separate charity for England. When I stumbled across Akshaya Patra, knowing that it's one charity that supports both kids in England and in India, that I knew it was calling to me. It was also because you go to some places, you see children living in slums, and after seeing that, it kind of changes your perspective. It makes you look back, take a step back, and look at your life somewhere else compared to the life they're living, and it just lets you it's a reality check. It shows you the difference in the two worlds, and I think that's most the reason I chose it, because I don't know how it feels to be hungry, but fasting from a day is bad enough, and I thought it would be really useful.
Yeah. Wow, that's really powerful, Prisha. That's so nice to hear that. And you're right. I mean, India has so much economic development, and it's becoming more confident as a country, as a superpower almost in the world stage, but it still has the world's largest food insecure population. So as you say, I don't know what it's like to be properly hungry either, but sometimes I fast, and like you, I find that really tough. And I've got two little toddlers, 5 and 2, and every time I think about not being able to feed them a decent meal, it fills me with real horror at the prospect. But that is the reality for lots of people living in the poorest communities in India. And then, sorry, on you go, please.
Oh, also the fact that the schemes you guys have, like in England, you have the after-school meals that you provide the kids, and in India, the fact that you serve them in school, and obviously, India's not as developed as England. However, it's really, really quickly developing. Some places, girls still don't go to school, and at their houses, they don't get meals. So the fact that not only giving them food can encourage them to come to school, but it's the fact they can get an education while getting food, and it's the fact that this charity is also the reason they're getting an education. That it's you're doing so much just by giving someone food could change their life. And imagine that one day they go to school, they learn something really big, and 10 years later they're a CEO of a business. That's really far, but I don't know, it could happen. It's that's how easily you guys change lives. So it really inspired me to pick this charity.
Prisha, you are such a tremendous ambassador for our work, because you're so articulate and eloquent about it. But you're right. I mean, that's the dream, is that by providing the meal every day, you of course meet the child's immediate need for nourishment. That's the immediate impact. But in bringing them into the classroom, attracting them into the classroom, giving them the nutrition so that they can concentrate properly and learn effectively, means that day after day after day, they are getting a better academic outcome. And then in time, so many studies show that education is the key driver of lifting communities and children and families out of poverty. So you're spot on. And then, as you said, here in the UK and England, there's 4 million children here who are living in a degree of poverty. It's estimated that close to a quarter of all households in the UK who have children in them, so just under a quarter, are experiencing food poverty, food insecurity. And I just think about, India is one thing. When you think of all of the wealth that is here in the UK, and, in London particularly, where a lot of our work is centred, one of the richest cities in the world, and yet there's children who are going hungry, not able to make the most of their education. So as you said, we've got this after school club program now. It's called Hot Meals and Homework. And it's so it does happen actually in the school, just keeps the kids on at school for an hour longer. And we have teachers supporting children who are disadvantaged to make the most of their homework, to really focus on their homework. But also they get a great nutritious meal from us as well. So it's a bit like what we do in India, just not in the midday meal space, but in the after school club space. And when you think about homework, I don't know if you experienced this at all, but homework's another area where disadvantaged children are experiencing inequality, educational inequality. Because teachers have told me that lots of kids in the most disadvantaged areas, they might not even have a surface on which to do their homework. They might not have a desk at home to do it on. Or their parents might come from a background where they don't have the confidence to support their child because maybe they didn't get a great education. Or even in this day and age, of course, with the internet and access to the internet, if a child doesn't have access to the internet at home, then they're going to be unequal versus their better off peers. So that's really what Hot Meals and Homework is trying to do, is to try and assist disadvantaged kids here to give them an extra boost and help. So really just delighted that you're supporting us through your swim. Let's come on to the swim, shall we? Because that's so exciting to talk to you about. Tell me a wee bit about how you became a swimmer in the first place, because you're in a swim club in Watford, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about the background of how you realised you were a great swimmer, and work me up to the present day where you're undertaking what seems to me, as somebody who can't swim, I'm embarrassed to say, right, but I'm terrible at this. I've tried to swim, by the way, and I've got my kids learning to swim at a really young age because I want to make sure that they can swim. But as somebody who can't swim, it sounds crazy to me that you're about to swim across the channel.
I was, that phase that in kids where everyone goes through, where you start all these clubs for your children. That's partly what I was doing. But my mum started the tots and toddlers swimming class. I've been swimming since 3 months old. And I started club swimming when I was around 11.
Okay.
I started open water, however, when I was 12 in lockdown, and my dad came up to me with this idea. I was like, have you ever, like, what's the channel about? And then we both started researching it together, and he was like, this is completely crazy, but would you like to swim the channel? And then I started researching. I still remember opening up all the tabs about sharks, and I kept getting shark adverts like, do you want a shark toy? Because all my like history tabs were filled up with how many sharks are in the English Channel? Are sharks deadly in the English Channel? And that was my number one fear. But if you told me 4 years ago today, I would be sitting here and in 2 days I'm going to swim the English Channel, I would laugh in your face, because 4 years ago I didn't know you could swim the English Channel. Open water is such an unknown thing to do. Like, everyone knows climbing Mount Everest, but more people have climbed Mount Everest than swimming the Channel. The Channel is like 35-ish kilometers. It all depends on the current and how much it pushes you. And it's from Dover to the end of France, but it's Cap Gresnes. I don't know how to pronounce it. But I'm aiming for around 12 to 13 hours, depending on the weather. Depending on the weather.
5 kilometers in 12 hours. That's nuts, but oh my god, that's going to be so cool.
I've been training for 4 hours. Like, my coach, because imagine a 12-year-old girl coming, and I wasn't the fastest girl in my squad. I've never like, I believe that you're never truly the best at something, and I feel like that's something that's inspired me. So I was never the fastest 12-year-old in my squad. In fact, I was watching all my friends move up. That's when I decided to start open water, and as I started open water, I could see the improvement, not only physically but also mentally. Like it changed my confidence. I became like a different person. If you met me 4 years ago, I was this shy, reserved little girl, and now I'm speaking to people in interviews. And
Yeah.
like it completely changed my life. And I also got more confident in the pool.
I heard your BBC interview, by the way, which was excellent. So you would never know that you were shy previously
Yeah,
because
I met my primary school teachers, and they were like, I just did my grade 8 acting,
Oh
actually,
wow, okay.
and then I met with my teacher, and she was like, you are such a different girl. She had to put me for a mime instead of an acting because I wouldn't speak. That's how different. That's what open water has changed. It's changed my life. And I went up to my coach when I was 12, and my parents and me went straight up to him and said, I want to swim the channel. Since then, my coach Jeremy has not left my side. We've been training for the channel for 4 years, and he's pushed me to limits I didn't know I had, but I'm so thankful. I learned things about myself in these 4 years.
You'd mentioned acting because I was wondering if with your swimming if you've got sort of Olympic ambitions or something, or whether you want to be an actor or what's the long-term plan look like? You're maybe a bit young to know for sure, but
I want to be a physiotherapist. I want to go into sports. But I also, since I was a kid, I wanted to be a vet, a doctor, anything around medicine. So I want to be a sports psychologist. I want to go into that field. But I wanted to stay connected to sports because I've been doing it since I was born. And
how do you deal with the psychology of having to swim, such a long distance? Like, because surely when you've got such a long stretch where you kind of need to keep your strength up and all of that, where does your mind go to? What are you thinking about?
That's what scares me the most. It's not the physical pressure. Like I know I can do it physically. My coach always says it's 40% physical and 60% mental, and I stand by that because so I've been training since I was 12, obviously. So I got used to the long swims since then. But the number one problem I faced is when you get into your head, that's when it all goes down. Your number one enemy is yourself.
Okay.
So I've had 2 swims in my entire life that I haven't completed, and both times it was perfect conditions, but I convinced myself I couldn't do it. Okay. So when I'm swimming, what I do is I try to get into this meditative state where I'm thinking about nothing. So it's like when you get into this state, it's the best thing that you can do. I did a 7-hour swim, and I remember about 2 hours of it. That's how it's like you're in a trance.
Okay.
It's like when I'm breathing and someone's waving at me from the side of the boat, I won't see them because I'm just like I'm just in my swim. So I usually start counting my strokes, or I usually sometimes I just try to sleep. I'm not sure if it makes sense, but I just try to zone out, or I replay like memories in my head until I'm thinking about absolutely nothing.
Okay.
And then like 3 hours later, I come out for a feed or something. But that's how I get past my swims.
It's really inspiring to think about all the training that you've done to get to this point. If you come out of your trance at any moment and you need some impetus to keep going, just think of the children who benefit from Akshaya Patra's meals and what your fundraising is going to do for them, because that keeps me going in life when I'm doing my job, when things get tough. So if you come out of your meditative state at any point, think about that. Let me ask you last thing, Prisha. With Akshaya Patra being a food charity and focused on trying to get good nutrition into children's bodies to nourish their bodies, but also nourish their minds by attracting them to the classroom and giving them a good education. Um, how does food play its part in helping you to succeed in such a physically challenging endeavor as swimming the channel? What's your kind of routine? What are you going to plan to eat in advance of it? Do you fast for a period beforehand, or is there particular things that you're doing with your diet?
So for the past month or two, I've been taking in. I've had to gain my weight so that I've got like an insulation, and
Okay.
so I've been eating carbs, proteins, and I've like tried to have a calorie increase my calorie intake. I've
Okay.
also been taking cold showers, and this gives you something called
Oh,
brown fat. So
right.
I never knew that, but my coach has taught me about brown fat. So it's
Interesting.
basically something that helps you keep warm in the sea.
Okay.
But mainly carbs and proteins, to be fair, yeah.
Wow, okay. Well, listen, just so much good luck for it. I know that it happening in a few days depends on the weather conditions being right and stuff. So I'll say a wee prayer that everything goes to plan and you can get off when you want to. But just honestly, so grateful for choosing Akshaya Patra. We'll do you proud once you've done the big challenge. We'll do you proud by making sure children are getting supported through our mission.
If I
So just
come to Vrindavan, I will come visit the kitchen.
Yeah, nice one. That would be really cool. And once you've done the swim, please come back to the kitchen in Watford, and I'll try to be there on that day because we'd love to have a wee celebration of your achievement as well.
Okay.